Well, Raj, it's great to be with you today. We're going to have a good discussion with the group, but you've been in marketing a long time and you've had a lot of success. Tell us a little bit about just the career journey, your role at Mastercard. Just kind of let's baseline the audience a little bit.
Yeah, I think I have been now working for about 39 years in my career. So that's quite a long time. And for the last 11 years, I have been the Chief Marketing Officer for Mastercard. And along the way, I also became the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer, and also the founding president of Mastercard's healthcare business. And I worked all over the place. I started my career with a paint manufacturing company to start their marketing department. And then I moved to Unilever, where I was managing all the personal care products for India. And then I joined Citibank, and I was Citibank for 15 years, starting in the Middle East in Dubai, and then went to London managing Europe, then came to the US. I was the chairman and CEO of a company called Diners Club, which was then a fully owned subsidiary of Citibank. Then I was the head of credit cards for Citibank North America, went to healthcare for 4 years with Humana, and then came to Mastercard 11 years back. So it's been a long journey, but a very fruitful journey, which I'm very grateful for. And going strong.
And Mastercard is obviously a massive global business, but let's share a little bit about the scale of Mastercard, the type of business that you're in. Just let's give the audience a bit of understanding.
Yeah, so Mastercard has about 2.8 billion consumers who hold a Mastercard. So it's a pretty massive customer base. We also don't issue those cards ourselves. We do it through banks. So we have got about 60,000 banks around the world who are our clients. And they issue MasterCards on our network. We also have got on the merchant side close to 100 million merchants who accept a MasterCard. And so this is the network. So we connect consumers, banks, and the merchants. And we are at the center of it all. And as a company, we have been doing quite well. And now we are about $430 billion in our market cap. But we are a small company in terms of people. We are barely 35,000 people in the entire company. But we are present in 190 countries and territories. If you include territories, it goes to 210. It's a massive company. 84% of people in the world have brand awareness about Mastercard.
Right, so your business is particularly interesting because you have a huge brand presence, which the consumers are all familiar with. But then your clients are the banks. So the direct relationship is actually with the banks. And then they have the relationship with the merchants.
Correct.
And so you're connecting the banks and the merchants, but then the brand relationship is as much with the consumers who are their customers.
Exactly right.
So take us a little bit through then how you think about marketing in your world from the standpoint of the mix of focus of brand versus partnerships versus digital versus what you're doing with events and that kind of placement. Like, kind of walk us through just your thinking about the strategy for marketing for your business.
Absolutely. So when you look at our company, we are a classical B2B2C. But when you look at 3 pillars as to why marketing exists at Mastercard, the first pillar is brand. The brand building is primarily focused on end users, which is consumers. So our entire Priceless campaign and events and everything we do it to build our brand in consumers' hearts and minds in a positive way. So today we have become the 11th most valuable brand in the world.
The 11th most valuable brand in the world.
Brand in the world, yeah.
That's pretty good. Let's give Raja a hand.
Yeah, a few years back, we were at number 87, but with our focus on building the brand very thoughtfully. The other thing is, while Mastercard does not issue one single credit card, we are perceived to be a credit card company. So even when various magazines and newspapers write, they said the credit card giant Mastercard. We are not a credit card giant. We are a technology company, but that's a popular perception. The risk with that is credit cards are not the most liked category. health insurance companies and credit card companies, they are the most hated companies. And we are associated with credit cards, therefore managing our brand to steer away from that and be perceived for what we are is very critical to us. And I'm glad, like across the world, we are today amongst the top 20 most loved brands. So the category they hate, the association is with the brand, but in terms of the brands that people have a strong positive affinity, we're in the top 20, so which is one good thing. The second pillar is about growing our business. This we do at 3 levels. We have to respond to RFPs that come from various banks or pitch to them proactively to encourage them and to sell it to them that they have to issue cards on my network as opposed to my competitors' networks. That's basically, it's a B2B effort, big way. And since we are a technology company which is in cybersecurity, we're in consulting, we are in loyalty programs, we have a whole bunch of services. And we need to really create that awareness and a strong pull for the various categories that we have beyond the well-known category of payments. So there is a whole bunch of marketing activity around that. At the same time, we also promote usage of cards amongst our end consumers, and that creates the pull. So push from the issuers and from the merchants and pull from the consumers. That brings me to the third pillar, which is how do you create competitive advantage for Mastercard. And I'm one of those firm believers that competitive advantage is emotional and it is not specific technological or product benefits and features. Because there is complete parity across industry after industry after industry. Yes, we have scale advantage, which gives you a certain level of advantage, but that's pretty much it. So we try to create platforms for a sustainable competitive advantage that are very difficult to replicate by our competitors. And that platform should be essentially evoking the right emotions and inspiration to our consumers. We call, for example, priceless.com. That's one big platform that we have got. So this is how we go about it. In terms of how we do our marketing, we have made a huge pivot in 2014. Till then, we used to spend literally well in excess of a couple of $1 billion only on advertising. And from being an advertising-dominated country, marketing strategy, we moved to experiential marketing in a significant way, which means that we curate and create experiences that money cannot buy, but you can get them through Mastercard. So we do a ton of sponsorships across 10 different categories, whether it's sports or music or culinary or shopping and so on. So we do sponsorships and curate those experiences at these sponsorships. And we do a lot of events where, again, we give a lot of opportunity for regular day-to-day consumers to feel special and to create priceless memories. And that's how we distinguish our brand.
So maybe if I can just double click on that for a second. Measuring events, notoriously difficult. You guys are obviously well invested here. I'm sure you've got some best practices you can share with us about how you guys think about measuring the event impact.
So firstly, why do we do an event?
In other words, should any of us be spending all this money at Cannes?
So what we actually do is we have KPIs. We start with what metrics we want to measure across the 3 pillars that we have. Pillar 1, brand. Pillar 2, fueling the business growth. And pillar 3, perception of competitive advantage that you are creating. For each one of these, we have got very specific KPIs that we evolved. We bought 5 data analytics companies in the last few years, and they are absolutely crazy smart when it comes to data analytics. One of the advantages we have as Mastercard, unlike many other categories, when a person is using my product, I know that in real time. So therefore, my analytics can be in real time while being totally respectful of consumers' privacy and protecting their privacy. So we aggregate the data into segments and then figure out how a campaign is doing, how a particular sponsorship is doing, how a particular event is using. For example, let's say we are sponsoring an event like Arnold Palmer Invitational. The policy of some of our competitors is if they are sponsoring an event, they would not let other cards be used except theirs. Our policy is different. We said you don't blackmail consumers to only use your card, but you inspire consumers to use your card. If they want to use some other card, okay, fine. You want to make the entire journey seamless. And customers like that quite a lot, and that's one of the things which drives the brand likability, by the way. So what we do is say, if I am doing it at Arnold Palmer Invitational in Bay Hill in Florida, we know what percentage of people what was my share of wallet. In other words, if you as a consumer are spending $100 in a given month, I know how much of it you are spending using my card and how much of a lift I got when I'm not forcing you with this event. And so we have got specific attributes and we track data in real time. We have developed proprietary methodologies working off of various existing models, whether it is market mix model and stuff like that. We have taken those as table stakes and developed significantly multiple generations after that. And that's what we track. So we are pretty obsessed about numbers and data and ROI, metrics, etc. And we measure it pretty fanatically.
No, that's really cool. I'm going to follow up with you after, and you're going to share with me some of the deep details on that.
Absolutely. I'm sure you will not compete with us, and we're not going to compete with you guys, so I'm happy to share.
So let's talk a little bit more about how you guys use data. I'm sure that an important aspect for a business like yours, cybersecurity, fraud, all of these issues, you guys have been pretty innovative in terms of how you use data, machine learning, predictive AI in that space. Talk to us a little bit about the sophistication that's in the background.
Perfect. So firstly, I'll tell a small story and then come to tell what we are doing as Mastercard about it. A few years back, I went for some minor surgery to a hospital. And 4 years or 5 years after that, I get a notification from the hospital. Oops, our database has been hacked. And your social security number, your date of birth, your full legal name, your address, everything has been compromised. Not just me, the entire database, right? You feel very upset about it. And the first question is, why did you need so much amount of data to perform my surgery? Right? You didn't need all that nonsense. No, absolutely. Secondly, if you don't know how to protect my data, you have no business to collect my data. And to add insult to the injury, they tell you, we are giving you a credit monitoring service that costs you $9.99 per year. And then you can see if somebody is opening credit lines in your name or whatever. That is absolutely lazy, and it's very irritating and annoying. So if that's how I feel about our consumers, turning around as a marketer, what I want to do is to be respectful of what data I even collect from consumers. It's not about being greedy and say, let me capture everything I can. Who knows, maybe that data will come in handy at one point in time. No, that's not the approach. I have to get only minimal data that is necessary for me to do business and give you relevant offerings to understand you enough to be able to give you what you need. And so this is one part of it. So collection of data, what do we do? Second, how do we store the data? So we have got some of the most cutting edge ways of how we cut up the databases. Not everything resides. So even if you hack into one database, you can't make sense out of it. There's a lot of tokenization. There is a lot of codification. There are multiple keys that you need to have a hold of across every single server. Only then you'll make sense out of it. So it's a very cutting edge way of how you manage data. So that's the second. Third, as a consumer, I want to be respected. So as a marketer, I want to respect the consumer. If I'm using your data, You have every right to know what data I'm collecting, what am I using it for, am I selling your data? It's very important. So, and we don't deal with any PII, personally identifiable information. We just don't deal with it. It's all anonymized and it's aggregated. So this is how we go about in terms of data. And our data organization is pretty good. So much so that deploying AI has augmented our insight mining capabilities dramatically.
So the consumer can really depend on the privacy and security of their experience with Mastercard, and that becomes part of the brand,
Absolutely.
part of what they count on over time.
Absolutely. It's a privacy-first company. And privacy-first not as a sound bite, but truly as a principle that you abide by.
So let's switch gears. You've mentioned the importance of emotion in your brand. Let's talk about creativity. Talk to us about creativity at Mastercard, how you guys think about creativity in the context of the marketing that you're doing.
Yeah, see, one of the fundamental premises that I have is that when technology keeps advancing, it levels the competing field across all the competitors, big and small. So I may just be a small startup, but I'll have enough access to resources that can help me compete again effectively and successfully against the giants in the industry, which is a big transformation from the past. In the past, if you're a Unilever and a giant company, or you're a Procter & Gamble, or you're whoever, or a Mastercard or a Visa, a small company would find it very difficult to get that same kind of a scale advantage. Access to the same investment capital is impossible. If you had to build a big data database, that was like a humongous investment. A small startup cannot afford to do that. But today, technology has evolved so good. Even the latest technology like Gen AI, it's available for $20 a month. And I can do a lot with it, right? And that's just one example. And most of the services are pay as you go. So therefore, you don't have any capital investment, but it's more working capital, which is very affordable. So in that situation where the entire competing field is democratized, what makes the difference is your creativity to stand out and to win. And that will be the superpower for companies. Actually, a lot of people are scared of Gen AI, and so, my God, all the creatives will disappear and life is going to be, But the reality is, this is the time we require the creatives the most. Because you give an instruction to Gen AI, I give an instruction to Gen AI. Both of us will probably get the same kind of outputs. So it's not that the difference is not through prompt technology or prompt engineering. It'll very quickly degenerate when we start using Gen AI at scale into a sea of sameness. You need creatives to help you stand out. So in fact, I keep telling my agencies, this is the golden moment for you guys. And to my team, I said, this is when your creative superpower has to come to the fore and keep the company ahead of everyone else. And so this is one part of it going forward. But if I look back, we had a fantastic platform called Priceless that I inherited. I wish I could say that I created it, but I inherited it. But then the platform, we evolved it from an advertising platform to an experiential marketing platform. We have moved our entire marketing strategy into a different sphere where creativity is front and center. And we have been very successful in spite of the fact that I have cut back on my marketing budgets over the years. I actually cut back on marketing dollars. We are still punching way above our weight, and my competitors have budgets 2 to 3 times of what I have, but I'm kicking them in their backside and growing much faster than them. Like if you look at brand Z this year, our growth rate of the brand has been 21%. Financial services as a category has been 6%. My biggest competitor's growth rate has been 12%. So I grew twice as fast. And if you look at another study, Interbrands, and these are not commissioned by us, these are all generic studies, right? If you look at Interbrands, for example, their study, for the last 4 years, we have been amongst the top risers, as they call it, in terms of the fastest growing brands. So, and that's not being driven by brute financial power. Far from it. It's being driven by creativity. It's being driven by sophisticated data analytics for precision targeting, and also mining the right insights with which creativity is done, and measurement to know that we are on the right track. If we are not on the right track, do course correction very quickly. That's how we've been going about it.
No, I love that. I love the focus on the creative judgment and the sensibilities that are going to make the difference. So one thing, Raja, that we're thinking a lot about at Adobe is how to put AI directly into the applications that people use every day so that we can make it incredibly pragmatic and useful. You're no doubt experimenting with AI in a number of areas and generative AI in your business. Any particular experiments within the marketing organization that you'd like to share with us that have been particularly successful?
Happy to. See, the first thing is we were one of the first companies to have jumped onto the bandwagon of Gen AI. And AI itself in marketing, we started 6 years back. So I'll go historically. So 6 years back, we created a digital marketing engine out of Singapore. What that engine would do is to predict micro trends in the social media using AI. A micro trend is a trend that lasts for less than 3 days. When it predicts that micro trend, we have got a repository of all our messaging, our offers, our discounts, our promotions as a library of Mastercard. Based on this micro trend, it will look into my repository or library and say, this is the most appropriate thing that you need to communicate to your consumers because this is going to be the next micro trend. If you are contextually appropriate to the micro trend, the effectiveness is higher. It then converts that message into an ad. And then it does A/B testing and optimizes the ad. And then it serves into those channels and those media that it determines are most appropriate for this audience where the micro trend is actually going to start. It will measure the response and then tell you how it is doing. And even while it is doing, it's coming up with the next micro trend. This is something which is an absolute game changer for us. It's doing extremely well. Totally AI generated, now deploying Gen AI. So this is one. We have launched something called the Mastercard Sonic Studio. The Mastercard Sonic Studios, we are very heavily into music and our Sonic brand, audio brand, we are doing it. So there is a melody. So we have created a Gen AI engine. So today, if I'm sitting, say, in India, and I want to create an ad, or background music to my ad, say it is to millennials, and this kind of a psychographic profile, and this is the theme, and this is the topic, and this is what I want to talk about. I just feed it in as a marketer sitting in India into the Gen AI engine. In a few moments, it will create the most appropriate background music for that particular communication based on my sonic melody for the brand. So there is total brand consistency, and it is completely Gen AI based. Or we have launched an initiative out of Poland. In Poland, what's happened is when, you're aware of that, right? In Poland, what happened is when there was a Russian invasion into Poland, into Ukraine, there were hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians who started fleeing Ukraine and coming into Warsaw in Poland. Poland was welcoming them with open arms. But then the infrastructure started collapsing because the 800,000 people coming into literally in few days into Warsaw, their infrastructure was not capable of. People were on the pavements and they didn't have place to sit, they didn't have place to use toilets. It was horrible overall. So what the team has done is come up with an AI tool which is on the mobile phone. So you say, you just get it, it says where to settle. So if you are a Ukrainian refugee, you take that app, it'll ask you a few questions. What's your background? What's your work experience? How many children do you have? Are you married? And any concerns, etc. Based on that, it'll tell you, for your background and for your qualifications and experience and everything, there are 8 jobs in Poznan, and there are 3 jobs in Krakow. Instead of being here in Poland, in Warsaw, go to one of those cities. And if you go there, these are the jobs. You can apply right from this app. This is the salary you can expect. This is the cost of living. If you want to rent a house, here are the links to the real estate companies. And if you want loans, here are the banks. And here are the schools. Here is the crime rate in this particular place. And then you choose based on the options and you apply. 170,000 families have relocated based on this. It's really extraordinary how much of a difference it made. And these people, they moved there, and the Poland government was so impressed, they now made it as their official app for helping people relocate. And the United Nations Security Council invited Mastercard to present this at the UN Security Council meeting, where they said there is mass migrations happening across different parts of the world. And people, when they migrate, they go to the same places where there are no opportunities. But if you can redirect them to where there is demand, but they can't find people, like for example, if you're a doctor running away from a country for whatever reasons, instead of hanging out in the main town, maybe there are doctors required in some interior rural area. As a migrant, you don't care. You are grateful that you're in that country. You go to the rural place. So the country gets served. These people get taken care of, the migrants, and government is very happy. So this is what we are doing now.
That's fantastic. What a great program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we're out of time, but maybe just the last question for you. Obviously, the Priceless campaign, clearly your favorite marketing campaign of all time, but share one other with us that's notable for you, that stands out, that you've loved out in the world.
Actually, it's a little bit of a crazy ad. This is for a brand called Ducati. And I give this an example of one of the exceptional ads that communicated the message so powerfully without saying one word in a print ad. This is probably from more than 25 years back. Still, I hold it as a gold standard. So there is a Ducati bike with branding on it, Ducati. Then there's a guy standing with a beer belly, tattoos, beard, and metal studs, leather jackets. You know who this guy is. When you look at him in one shot, he's a Harley Davidson guy. And there is a puddle around his feet, and his pants are wet. That's it. I thought one of the most powerful ads that I have seen, without saying a word, in a print ad. Unbelievably good.
Okay, well, there you go. But Raja, thank you. It's been great having this conversation with you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.